Blue Lamp Foundation, who help people who work for the emergency services who get injured in their line of duty, and it's a charity to help them out. Plus, the podcast writer's very happy, so thank you. Just excuse me while I wed myself to my art. This will work. Oh, this is going to be too technical. Then we'll do it like that. Okay, I'm going to read a shortened version of my story from the anthology. It's called Hotel du CNS. It's inspired by a song called IY by a 1980s band called 23 Skidoo. It's a song that unfailingly makes you want to get up and dance, if you could imagine such a thing. Unfortunately, the character in the story can't get up and dance because he's handcuffed to a radiator, a foreign hostage in a faraway war. He does also sport a blindfold, which I can't really go the whole hog on that, or I wouldn't be able to see. So we'll have to suspend our imaginations for that. Yeah, that will work. Hotel du CNS, thank you. Ow. Unyielding. A world already in total darkness, and now shrunk to 2 foot at the end of a chain. Ha, the length of a cubit more like, tight against, like a radiator. It's so damn hot here, who'd ever need a radiator for God's sake? Ah, cuffs cutting into me, my flesh interposed between metal on metal, the weak link. Have to stay perched at the correct angle, an involuntary movement, an immediate barbaric retribution. No, I came here to teach these people to repair themselves. And this is how they treat me, tethered like an animal. At least the painted metal's cooling, I suppose. Let's see if I've any movement at all here. Yes, if I just slide along this pipe, got my very own exercise yard. Have to keep remembering to give myself permission to move. A private hell reporting for duty in somebody else's war, sir. Clearly I've been afforded a window, the region of sight, mocking me. At least it means I'm no longer in a cellar, still in the pockmarked ruins of the city even. If I can just... Sun's definition, without luminescence, so only heat and fatigue to guide me. Got it. Full on now. Bob my face minutely across the arc of its gaze. How clean the air feels. Up in the mountains or down in the desert. Who can tell? I cannot see, yet I am not blind. And listen out for sounds to narrate my story for me. All one needs contained in the distant artillery. Meeting as intended, or just recoiling. And then nothing but evaporated silence. Are my jailers even in with me? Tied to my anchor in here, beneath the unfailing scrutiny of such a powerful daytime flashlight out there, they have no need of perpetual watchfulness. Jesus, this damned heat. It's like a wall of steam. I can't even divine the sun directly on me anymore. Jiggle my head this way and that, just so till it breaks, the surface tension, and the day droplet leaps to freedom, or oblivion. And still the water trapped in the radiator watches on in impassive silence. Excuse me, some mistake here. My bandana slipped down over my eyes. It's not performing its function. Nowhere for the refugee beads of perspiration to go. I don't actually believe I have any captors. I can't see them. I can't hear them. And despite living in close proximity inside a Turkish bath, I can't even smell them. They simply don't exist. But I know how to make them jump. And just remove my blindfold, or look as though I might. Mop my brow and get pistol whipped to death for my pains, technological updating of a stoning. I was wrong about these people and their methods. They've had coaching from our side. End it all here and now. It'll be quicker than drowning, and all for a bead of sweat, truly about a pound of my dissolved flesh. Christ, it's freezing. I never knew exactly how cold it could be in the desert or up in the mountains. Now I know why there's a radiator. Thank God for small mercies, for my constant companion, where before I cursed you, warmed when my body presses up close against it, while the other side of me remains chilled to the bone. Have to keep telling myself like toasting a piece of bread. Only I will never be done. Cuffs no longer rend flesh with soaring mass, but merely an icy kiss. My country, why hast thou forsaken me? Clearly the value of my life has lapsed way beyond any useful deadline. And since my heavenly clock has also been arrested, I'm utterly beyond counting time, beyond anything other than just concentrating on complete stillness beneath my blankets, to prevent cold air's brutal rupture. Yet through such numbness, one part of me still protests palpable sensation, hands wringing unwittingly as if seeking to draw the pain from my wrists, tenderly pricks as to freshly tilled corporeality, peel back through the fantastic fibrinogenous weave garnering logistics, back to bathe in the cascading fountain of clotting factors and cDNA's sequential metamorphosis as each lock finds its key and my skin repairs the breach of its metal siege engines. Fancy meeting God at the Hotel du CNS, and out of season too. All activity in the world ceases, except for one, that of watching and being watched. I thought at least with this feeble heat to share, there might be some contact with my silent jailer. It's like I don't even exist for them in their lives at all, and I'm forced to start agreeing. An absent presence. They give me my bedpans and piss pots and gently rub me down with wet cloths, taking care to avoid chafing my bed sores. Kind without being compassionate, I would say. Yet, despite knowing me so intimately, they give no trace of a flicker of response. They're not automatons, since their touch is more like that of a woman's hands, though I know them to be men, for there are never any seasonal smells brewing. Who are they? And why will they not reveal themselves? They are like the eunuch mutes of old, unable to ask any questions, able to tell no lies. So heaven knows what their superiors are like. All I know is that my country will not be able to intrigue with them, even if it were of a mind to. For I support this blindfold on its behalf. It does not see me as one of its citizens, but as an abstract principle. It will not deal with terrorists and freedom fighters, unlike the bloody French, of course. These men do seem to be from a much older culture, one that survived countless assaults. And suddenly, I feel irredeemably hopeless. Although serviced well, I would never have any semblance of relationship with them. And that in itself is crushing. But also to know that my nation will never defeat them, will never move the disciplined troops beyond their task, that is annihilating. Feel like a man in hospital, his eyes swaddled in bandages after being operated on, but he doesn't know if he will recover his sight. Only my whole being is being excised, amputated. Though my mind still feels its ghostly manipulations, ears straining in the silence to make out any rustle, now conjure up their own innocence. Tinnitus chaperones me. My eyes peer into the constant blindfold of the anticipating at any moment to become a cinema screen for my own private projection. My body the frontier of meaning across which nothing is exchanged, so only feeling can possibly remain. I could just reach out and touch him, when he isn't expecting it, when he comes to shave me perhaps, hand poised to lather me. I could just brush his arm. It would be so easy. He'd be forced to acknowledge me. His muscles might stiffen at another human being's contact. But then what would his response be? Would he club me? Would I be condemned to grow a beard? I've pondered on this for weeks. It keeps my mind in a state of relative calm, weighing up the pros and cons, a rational decision-making almost. It would break up the monotony. Something would necessarily have to change. Christ, why not just do it for goodness sakes? God damn it, no! He couldn't! Somehow, after all the months of the same, he'd read my intention to change. And he'd read it before the intention had even communicated itself to my body. I could try again, next time or a month hence, but always he'd be alert. I'd never get to touch him. There's so much for feelings. They still require both to be housed and to have an object to lavish on, body to body, where neither exists in this place. I don't believe it. I can see through my blindfold. Nothing too detailed, just shades of light blunted through salt island refractions. A sweat must have bleached the material and worn it away. They wash every part of me and all my clothing, but the blindfold is never touched. A small triumph for the forces of the light then. Ha! At last, a flaw in construction. The portents were all aligned, for the paint on the radiator is blistered too. I can make out the warp and weft of the cloth. See how it's fabricated, each stress, follow the way of the world for me to recreate it, plot the cartography. A time to regain a sense of myself, to reclaim my skin from fusion with the cuffs, to feel the shirt against my back, and finally to confront the face of my jailer and see his, too much light, too bright, blinding. He sees through me, Steel visor, not silk veil. So sharp, he illuminates the blood vessels to my eyes. That is too powerful, too much focus, too red. Brains emptied of all but colour, queasy. Inky blackness. Shift change again. Black still as absence of colour, of consciousness, of life, of my jailer who's gone elsewhere. I tried to shackle the sun to do my bidding, but he brought my blood back to the surface to remind me of my frailty. Am I to settle for the company of my blackguard, he whom I never see? No one blackens me, for I do that to myself, but everything reddens me, stabs at me with little tiny pinpricks of guilt. And since it is the underside of my flesh which so burns, I must be doing it to myself. Therefore I have some measure of control. Yet it was perspiration that partially restored my sight. It could have been tears, should have been perhaps. And with this underwhelming flood of sensations comes also a new inner sense of touch, of pressure in this one-sided vacuum, that of tumescence. For some time now I thought I was feeling it, growing, not at the one enduring site of skin regeneration, where you might expect the locus of cell overstimulation, but rather populating the ruins of my mind, pushing all the time. Pathology of energy, mutinous mutation. Let's face it, it's hardly the external environment that's carcinogenic now, is it? Maybe the tumour's merely at that place where a gun barrel first touched my head and encouraged my mind to run amok on the other side. But no, I moved beyond fear eons ago. Strange how, having withdrawn from the world, I'm undone by a lack of inhibition. All those foot soldiers conscripted by the mind in order to see off the body, now championing at nothing. As your doctor, I'd recommend, why give you my sight back now, when the blindfold was protecting me? Brown leathered skin stretched tight across the sockets, deep shards mined out. Highlights the architectonics, a mirror to the true shape of the skull beneath my face, and that's more than any man should be allowed to see of himself. Of course, I've got it. They're not soldiers, but monks, an ascetic discipline from a far more ancient age. So what covenant of theirs is it that awaits my signature? Stare hard, scrutinise the space where their faces should be for some sort of clue, and nothing. That must be the key then, to enter their absence. That which has so threatened my mind up until now must be the source of my redemption. No blindfold need weaken for me. I perceived it to be lighter because I heard the sunrise. No, that's ridiculous. Am I finally losing my mind? But what if I've been granted my own cloistered cell as this special gift, and no noise and no movement, where time has been stopped for me, an opportunity to become timeless, to move at the pace of the mountains? No, that implies grandeur, to move at the pace of a grain of sand in the desert, before it is swept up by the wind in a storm and lost forever. Why not? When each layer of sensation, experience and memory have been progressively stripped from me and revealed the degrees of my unhappiness. Finally worked out where I am, where I've always been, in that desert wilderness. Maybe those weren't rockets I heard scudding to the ground, but pollen grains, to wait patiently 40 years for the life-affirming waters to yield them birth. This is no ordeal, but a homecoming for my exiled being. I must take as my guides the men who have been placed here to watch over me, these peaceable witnesses. They draw from deeper wells of silence, rise above my petty selfish concerns and those gods and states we set over and between ourselves. Easier said than done, of course. When back at the Adult Education Institute, one wasn't tethered to a radiator. The sound of one hand clapping anybody. Now, how does it go? Think, or rather don't. Banish all thoughts and just breathe. I'm hungry. That's not a very good start. I'm supposed to get beyond all that. I'm hungry. I can't help it. I really am. Craving, a desire. Progress of a sort. Regaining my body, even if complainingly. I can feel all my joints aching. It makes it hard to focus. Come on now, these thoughts get you nowhere. Let's get beyond thoughts and desire. Deeper. Hush then. Withdraw and yield the periphery to the enemy that forever calls my name to attention and tugs me from my path. Hold on for silence, not sound. At last I have it, stillness. I note the white noise in my head as it chats with my body, but all that is now background. The cocktail bar at the Hotel du CNS. A sharper yet of sounds around me. No, not sounds, vibrations, flitterings, trails in the air, several rhythmic at different rates. Feel the silence, not just its rhythm, but its pitch and timbre too. As shapes a presence, and like a threshold to breath. I've unfurled their breathing, pulsing together, like we are breathing for this whole room, for the land outside the window, like we are breathing, underpinning the whole world. And we all breathe in freer air up in the clouds. Was that a smile I smelt upon their faces? I have my host more clearly before me now, his shimmering outline at least, for he appears to have no solidity, a field of dancing light, wielding a scimitar, trailing a beauteous spectral wake as he parts the air. Not a scimitar now that I taste its colour, a floppy green. It's a flower stalk, a long stem bloom held taut like steel. He has raised his vibration to that of a plant, so you cannot tell where one ends and the other begins. All is a swirl of energy, realising itself and each other, and then they are gone, floating beyond a place in time. Instructions to my shattered soul, how my body declared war on me. Formerly so used to preaching resistance through pills and imagining chemical magic missiles being hurled against the tumour. But to do so would only pitch my mind further against me. So I have to range deeper than visualisation. Metastasis. The cancer constantly recreating itself afresh. Constant groove motion utilising the cell machinery. Infiltrates the pulses. A time to reappropriate the code. The work of intelligence agents behind the lines rather than armies going to war. But intelligence contains memory, and memory runs the murderous program. Only consciousness precedes intelligence, so strive to reach and change it, working silently beyond where disease can sustain, in the peace zone. Solely there one can meet consciousness. It is not for my selfish end that I devote myself to harmony, for the heart is to remain a citizen there, not just a tourist with a visa. Sent to the baker's kneading hands, more often than not that of a woman's. She is washed in the river and collected lavender to perfume her house, but the faintest traces cling to her hands as she makes the bread. And I marvel in her husband's dexterous threshing of the wheat, the grain so fine, a skill that goes back almost to the origins of creation. And I take it back further, to the heads of the wheat growing so sparse under this fierce sun that bakes us all. How at night it sways in the gentle breeze of the mouth prayers of his farmer and his wife, hoping that the next day will not be culled by the locust, but merely settled upon by a beautiful butterfly. Some days I tread it back yet further, back to the seedling that contains the whole of mankind within its kernel, how it unfolds its myriad connections to each and every one of us, even while still below ground. We put our trust in its mystery and are rewarded with a sense of our own continuous being modelled within. Now do you feel God's hand pull on you? You do? And then we shake our walls of isolation to the ground. Can you make out the silent horns of Jericho? See the pitiful proportions of the rubble of our lives as we step over it? And we have become truly infinite. What? So soon? But I need more time here. Cheers, thanks very much.
Oh. Right guys, that's it. Thanks a lot for coming along, and let's stick around and get drunk. Alright, cheers. And we still have a few copies left.